Welcome to the Freedom Conversation Podcast. I'm here with my dear friend Andre Meloche. How are you today on this Sunday?
I'm good. The temperature is rising, so we feel spring now. And my kittens, they feel it too. The two male, they're 5 months old now. They want to go out, and I have to have them fixed before they go out because it will be another party. But I feel spring. It is more nice. So and
You
it
feel,
is sunny.
you
And how
feel
about you? It is
well.
nice.
You're feeling spring. Not here. Lots of snow. Very cold. Tons of snow. So much snow. So there's that happening. You got 5 kittens, right?
I have 4 kittens and the mother.
Oh wow. Yeah. So they're running around like crazy in your house right now.
Oh yes, now they're calm. Now I have to lock the door of my office because
Yeah.
they're starting to understand how to open the door. But you can imagine, it's like a SWAT team when they arrive. they invade they invade everything. So,
Yeah. Geez, they can create a lot of damage. Well, today we're gonna have a fun discussion. Well, fun, maybe not. Although you're a satirical writer, and I do want to talk about satire with you a little bit. But you've written something. I'll just show it on the screen briefly. We had a round table on this very podcast. Me, you, WD, Michael Martin, and Harvey. We talked about postmodernism. So today's episode I have titled Progress and Evil, because that's the title of your essay. Further Meditations on Postmodernism with Andre. Noon, Sunday, AST. That's right now. Okay. A lot was said in those 2 hours. A lot of people commented on that. That was a very interesting study of our modern era that we are in, and wokeism in particular. Tell us your further reflections. What have you written here? Lead us off. Yeah, we'll get into it.
well, when I wrote the article, you remember we were having a discussion, exchanging emails, and I start to think about the idea of progress. And Michael Jones, in his book Logos Rising, is explaining the difference between progress, evolution, the word revolution. And suddenly I said, okay, wait, I will use the mail that I sent you, and I will transform it into an article. And suddenly I start to understand that I never really defined progress. And at the same time, people were talking about the Epstein file. So I said, okay, wait a second, maybe the word evil came to my mind. So I said, okay, I will write an article, and the title Progress and Evil. And then footnote, I wrote the progress or is evil. And I said, I struggle with the text, because do we have to progress to be happy? Do we have to be in constant revolution? Do we have to have always those industrial revolution that are supposed to bring peace on earth, but it never happens? So I started to question the concept of permanent revolution based on Marx and based also on the Enlightenment. The revolution, the first French Revolution, then even a little bit before the American Revolution, which was not in the mind of Hannah Arendt, was not a revolution, because in the United States you had educated people. They were wealthy, educated, and when they wrote the Constitution, they were already part of a republic. And after that, you have the 1789 revolution in France, which was extremely bloody, and what I call the putsch in 1917 in Russia. And then for about 250 years, we have this constant revolution, permanent revolution. We always have to adapt, change, and we never have the time to rest, meditate, feel spirituality. So based on what we were discussing last week, postmodernism, I started to feel that I have to question the concept of progress.
Yep.
This is where I stand actually.
Yep. Let's take a quick look at that headline once more, because I'm going to read just what it says in the subhead. Where is it? Right here. Because this is going to lead us down a little farther into the body of the work. So, ancient taboos, you're right, are for the most part persistent and are based on ethnological, religious, and ritual practices that constantly reactivate in every era. The numerous perversions of the masters of the world. Okay. So that's a little bit more of what it's about. When we look at this piece of art, before I even read this, I said, let me just look at this. Why did you choose this piece of art? And I know that it is
Well,
called the dogmatic sarcophagus.
well, the idea of sarcophage, it is the idea of to bury something. You could think about the Egyptians, the pharaoh, and how they have hidden something that we are discovering. With archaeology, for example. So when I found that, I was asking myself, you have those thinkers who try to reveal truth, and you have those masters of the world who wants to hide them. You have the snake. You have all the artifact of the creation of the world according to the Bible. And I found that sarcophage very interesting. It's in the Vatican Museum. It's a very ancient piece of sculpture.
It's
And I
marble.
was at it's marble, exactly. It's marble, exactly. The Vatican Museum are incredible. I remember when I was in Rome, I visited the Vatican Museum for 5 days,
Wow.
and I could not see everything. It was astonishing to see the amount of beauty and I would say mystery there. You ask yourself, where am I? You are not in the same world. You're in a different world. Anyway, the Vatican. It is a country in itself.
Yeah.
It is a state in itself. So
Yeah.
so that I chose that image for that purpose, and also to show that ancient ritual, like the taboo, huh?
Taboo. Yeah.
The taboo are all ritual of totemism, that was described by Freud. They are part of ancient ritual that never really disappear. They just change form because the master of the world changes too. They change, and they inherit, I will say, quote unquote, the perversion of their ancestor. And I look at what is happening today in light of the Epstein file and the scandal that we are seeing actually in the Western civilization. And I tell myself, we are run by the devil, and
Yeah.
they always push us for progress.
Yeah.
Change.
So taboo is an interesting word, isn't it? It can refer to what topics of conversation that are just a little uncomfortable, maybe a little too close to the truth. Could that be an example of a taboo?
Well, the taboo is something, in the definition, the classical definition, the taboo is something that is prohibited, like incest, or like the concept of exogamy. You can marry somebody in ancient tribe. You can marry a primitive tribe. You can marry somebody, but not from your own tribe.
Things
And
like
this is
cannibalism.
Well, I refer to cannibalism too. We can talk
Yeah.
about it a little bit later. But the idea is, yes, that's the totem, like ancient tribe. And I want to make sure to clarify that I'm not an ethnologist, but still I've studied for thoroughly. So the totem is the image of the tribe, and you have usually an animal that is represented by the totem. And usually you have ritual of sacrifice, and you see this in ancient Greek, you see this in ancient tribe, and it is something that evolved from era to era, up to a point where at some point they replace the would say human sacrifice or the animal sacrifice with a symbol or a ritual, or not a holiday, but how can I say this? It's like you do a great party, and you
Right.
you do a sacrifice,
Festival.
but a festival.
Festival.
Exactly. That's the word I was searching. So you have this, and you expect in our societies that this will be just a metaphor. It's just a metaphor,
Yeah.
but in reality, this is not what is happening. because I think about, take the example of Maria Abramovich, where she's what we call, I'm sorry to say it, contemporary artist, quote unquote. When they do parties and they have bodies of people on the table, but it's okay, it's food, but it is still an image of human body, and they eat it like, they're mimicking cannibalism. And
Yeah.
in my article, I refer to this, I think it is a Norway professor who was saying that maybe, if I don't want to sound too conservative, I would try to eat human flesh.
Mhm.
And I say, wait, oh, now it's even. And he even said that maybe it would help to fight climate change, to go back to cannibalism. You say, okay, that's quite a statement. I can say this. I can, I can say this to myself. But when you're a teacher and you're in a summit like this, and you say this, you create another reality in the mind of people, and we see it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you're a satirical writer, and you've written about very taboo, dark topics. So now I'm going to read just a few sentences because you make it funny, and this is an interesting thing now because we're talking also reflecting on postmodernity here, right, in the background. So we're going to go into some deep stuff here, but let me just read this. So this is you. I would therefore like to demonstrate that ancient sacrificial rites never truly disappear, but are transformed or even are democratized. Pedophilia, child trafficking, and cannibalism are ancestral practices that degenerate elites seek to normalize to justify their deviant behavior. So this is the guy, Magnus Soderlund, a professor and researcher at the Stockholm School of Economics during a semester entitled, "Can You Imagine Eating Human Flesh?" at the 2019 Gastro Summit in Stockholm, explored the idea that cannibalism could be a solution to food shortages caused by climate change. So you jokingly write on here, so he's interviewed by a Swedish media outlet. He stated that he himself would be willing to try it so as not to appear too conservative. Thus, this degenerate would taste human flesh. Could he start by eating his own arm to set an example so as not to appear too conservative? Okay. Then and you continue with another joke here by saying, "What will vegetarians say?"
Well,
So I don't
you
know.
know, well, that's the kind of mind of a satirist who, when your mind, you let yourself go, you're free, you think, and ideas, they arrive like this. You say, okay, eating meat, not eating meat, not eating meat means vegetarian. Oh, vegetarian will be conservative. What's a conservative? So your mind goes like this, and then you go deeper, and then you see many contradictions too, but the contradiction are exposed or illustrated by those declarations. And I tell myself, think about the bugs. Z will eat the bugs. Huh? Think about the bugs. And when we say we are what we eat, that's the concept of a totem. Huh? The concept of the totem, which means when you eat the body of your enemy, you integrate its qualities. I think there's a quote in Totem and Taboo where the woman who is breastfeeding her baby, she has to be far from the ritual, because when if she's close to the ritual, she could inherit or pass to the child, those characteristics, which could be good or bad. So if you read Totem and Taboo, you understand that you have to isolate people like women when they have their menstruation, those ritual, you see it in many ways. And you ask yourself, those ritual, did they disappear today? And when we read this, when we see what happened with the Epstein file, I suspect that they did not disappear. I had an interview with Maria Pumier. She's a French intellectual. She wrote a book in 2019. It was republished. The title is Merchandising Human Life. And she's describing not only abortion, but she's describing child trafficking, surrogate mother, and organ trafficking.
Mhm.
And so we are in this era where based on fact. It is, I'm not inventing. It's based on fact, and now it's coming out in the Epstein file. So when it's based on fact like this, you ask yourself, okay, are those ancient rituals that should have disappeared and become, let's say, allegoric, are they really just a metaphor?
Yeah, like in the Olympics. The Olympics that they just had there.
Exactly.
The big flaming pentagram with and I paused it right at the exact moment where red where the fireworks were like shooting upwards and then across, and you pause at the exact moment. It's like a pentagram in the middle of the forehead and two red eyes with two red horns going up. And I was just like, whoa, okay, well, the metaphor or what? What's the deal? You know? Or is it, oh, just a coincidence? Maybe the pentagram actually means something about love and light. Nah, I don't think so.
Well, this morning I read an article from Alexander Dugin. He's a Russian philosopher, and more Russian people, intellectual, they're talking about Satanism in the Western world. Even Vladimir Putin made a declaration about this. So, and at first you say it's a joke. It's a joke. He's not mean. He doesn't mean that. It's just, and then you start to understand that they're starting to realize that maybe there's something really serious behind that, and we have to question ourselves as a Westerner. As Westerners, we have to question ourselves based on that. What are our moral code toward that? They will eat the bugs. I'm sorry, I will not eat the bugs, like Klaus Schwab was saying. Because when you eat the bugs, you become the bugs.
Yeah. Well, there's a Pizzagate thing that happened too, based on email tranches from Hillary Clinton and the Podesta, that whole thing that happened.
Yes.
To 2016. Who knows if this is all engineered also, but it might not be. This is the big thing now in the podcast world, because only the podcasters are allowed to talk about this stuff, some of these things, really. Like here in Canada, and not to change the subject, but it all relates. There's a massive mass shooting, and people are very somber about it here, because I guess it doesn't happen very often. Big one in BC, and we don't have to go into it because we already been talking about it. Everyone's talking about it, but somehow wokeism has a role to play in many things that are happening. The inversion of reality and anti-human sentiments. Humans should eat the bugs, sure, because they are bugs, because we just destroy the planet. Everywhere we go, the animals have to run away deeper to the forest, whatever. I hear it every day on the news. We should just stop populating the earth so much with our grossness or whatever. There's these things going on. And in the education system, they also teach you that you're cisgender. I was in school very recently, and they wanted us to introduce ourselves. Everyone in the class should say who they are, where are they from, why are you, what inspires you about this course, and use your preferred pronouns if you feel comfortable. I felt very uncomfortable, and I was the only one who abstained, and I didn't know what to say. So I just said, my name is David. I'm here, yada, yada, whatever. Who's next? And I thought it was noted by the authorities, and people in the class, others were uncomfortable. Because this is not logical to me. It has never been explained that I'm not a man. You have to fucking explain it to me. Or I'm not playing along. But then if you don't play along here in Canada, you risk, what would be the word? Re-education.
Or exclusion.
Or exclusion. Or isolation. So, in your article, you're laying out a lot of things. But there's a hopeful message at the end, but we'll get there, which I'm thankful for. Because I don't see a hopeful message, but as I've said before, until I find one. And I'm okay also, because my life is okay. But imagine someone today now who's having really hard times, like really struggling. and now also things are going like this around them. Can you imagine? Yeah. Anyway, postmodernism and progress. You think it's evil, huh? Endless progress.
Well, I will nuance what I wrote. I found a quote in the book of Michael Jones, and I would say I will make a difference between progress and all progress, because we cannot also undermine the innovation that we are benefiting today. We can talk about running water, sewage, roads, cars, airplane. If I was able to go to Rome and see 5 days of the Vatican Museum, it's because I could fly there. So the idea that the revolution, the industrial revolution, does not bring improvement in life, that would not be honest to say this. But at the same time, you compare with, for example, the Amish in United States. It is so awkward because they are practically outside of the modern world, and they seem extremely happy, extremely focused on the family, focused on the maybe faith, and also the community. We can even compare this to ancient primitive tribe. Primitive tribe, they were very isolated from what we call evolution. And I'm starting to question the concept of progress, with a big P, a capital P. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. I don't see it. And then I know it's difficult for many people to feel connected with God. Because when you start to feel connected, your soul or your mind is more at peace. We can still be hurt by the system, but we react differently. I've started to react differently since 2021, because during the COVID mandate, I wrote 2 essays. The first one was Coward, Traitors, and Collaborators, and the second one was Parasite, Pervert, and Psychopath. 350 page each, and I'm writing a third one, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It's quite different, but I've evolved slowly toward the peace of mind. And like you said, we are not hurt directly, so we have the time to think, to meditate, and to share this with people. Sharing not only but kindness, sharing tenderness. It's a little bit more difficult virtually because we cannot hug each other, we cannot take a beer with each other, have a meal. Having a meal with somebody is a ritual in itself.
Yeah. This is a medium, hey? Didn't Plato say that any real communication shouldn't be written down or can't be, or what was that about?
Well, yes, you were right, because they were suspicious about writing. Oral communication in ancient Greek was the norm. The scripture, they were transmitted, or the knowledge was transmitted by teaching. Socrates didn't write nothing. He was teaching. It is his student who start to write his lesson. Mm-hmm. They were suspecting that writing was evil. I give you a simple example. I'm left-handed. In Latin, left is sinistra, sinister.
Okay.
So why in school, in Catholic school, in the 50s and 40s, they were forcing people to write with their right hand. My father, me, I could use my both hands, and I was cheating. My father, when he was going to the bathroom, I was switching hands, but because I write like a right-handed with my left hand, and I was writing with the pencil, my hand was always dirty here. And when he was coming back from the bathroom and I was writing, I was switching, and he was arriving and lifting my left hand and smiling, saying, "I know you're cheating." But up to a point, then after that, I started to write with my right hand because I read better. I'm good with the right hand, but not as good. But the left hand is the devil. So, a writer, I can refer to many writers like Charles Bukowski, but I think you arrive at a point where you have to question either your own knowledge, your own faith, and then it helps you define the outside world.
There's two themes also from this essay to lead us along that I would like to draw forth. One is evolution. People have said the theory of evolution is dead. It can't be proven. And I've never done my research. I also don't hold a belief in creationism either. But evolution is up for scrutiny. Hey, let's scrutinize it. Maybe we'll get into that. You write a little about it. But also art. We're, postmodernism. We're reflecting. Of course, art is a huge part of the whole thing. So I want to talk about art. Okay. You bring up the Piss Christ. Tell us what this piece of art, the Piss Christ, is all about, and I will show it on the screen.
Well, okay, I wrote about this in 2018, and I think you referred to it last week or in one of your episodes, and it brought back memories about what I was writing at the time. Contemporary art is an oxymoron. It's not art at all. It's blasphemy in a sense. And the Christ is full of urine. That was his way to mock Christianity. And they mock Christianity. They never mock Judaism, and they certainly not mock Islam, because they can be hit by a fatwa. So they're selective in their art. This is funny. And when you talk about contemporary art, the destruction of the beauty. I take this. Wait, I will just take it for your viewers. I take this. I read this book, The Dangers of Beauty, from Michael Jones, and the subtitle is The Conflict Between Mimesis and Concupiscence in the Fine Art. And in this, he describes the history of art and the history of beauty, harmony. And when he arrives at the 20th century, he's showing that all this beauty has disappeared because there's no harmony. The triangle. Pythagoras, and he's explaining that if that was destroyed, and when you don't have boundaries, you can do whatever you want. I take some example with contemporary art or architecture. You look at the sarcophagus. It's a beautiful piece of carved marble, really, and it was practically 2,000 years old. This sarcophagus, the way and with the instrument they had. The tools they had, the way they were sculpting is incredible. You look at cathedral, you look at churches, and look at modern building. Yeah. They are flat, line, ugly, only glass, steel, no detail, detail. Me, I pay attention to the detail. I look at your mosaic in the back of your head. I look at the detail because the detail reveals the beauty or the talent of the artist. Today, what do we have? And Piscaris is an example. It's blasphemy it's only a political act. Yeah. And modern art is, it's market. I can make you billionaire tomorrow. You're a musician. If I'm very rich, I will provide you with all the studio and everything, advertisement and promotion and everything. And in 3-4 weeks, you will be on the stage, and they will, because I create you. Yeah. And in I would say 15th, 16th century, you had Mécènes who were taking somebody who has real talent and promoting them. I don't say that in the past they were not promoting talent, but today you can promote everybody. And I know you're a good musician, so I can use you to make money. Simple.
It's all going to play in here because just this morning I thought, piss Christ. The artist's name is Andres Serrano.
Serrano.
You mentioned him in your article, and the fact that he's mentioned in the Epstein.
Well,
of course, and I thought,
they-
how could he not be involved in the Epstein?
how could he not? There's one thing that I forgot to say, and when we were talking about cannibalism, when we eat the body of Christ,
Mhm.
we mimic the flesh of Christ because we want to eat the body of Christ to feel Christ in us. That's the concept of communion. But I think he wanted to not only to mock the ritual, but he wanted to show that what you're eating is, we have to get rid of it. What do you do with urine? You get rid of it. Except in the 1980s or 1990s, you had some lunatics who was advising you to drink your own urine, for your I was like, some of my friends were doing this at the time in 1995, 1990, and I said, what are they doing?
Yeah. I just looked a little closer, and I'll just show this other one. I thought, maybe he's a decent artist. Maybe he's being a little edgy, And so I thought, what else has he done? This is called Madonna too, also encased in his own urine. I thought, okay, this is a depraved individual, obviously. Yeah. And also,
Well, you
can I just tell you a couple quick details that just right off
ahead.
the top? So he's a transgressive artist, which aims to outrage or cause a reaction to the observer. So this is obviously not art already. He worked for Metallica. He made 2 of their album covers. So that's interesting. He works with urine a lot. His mom had schizophrenia. Where was the thing? Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, look, neo-Nazis. No, it doesn't matter. We'll stop sharing the screen. It's going to confuse the viewer. I just wanted to prove the point that, yes, he's a depraved, disgusting lunatic, not making art at all. But this guy, it said something about awards. That's what I was looking for. And the United States government funded many of these awards that he was received. So they have an agenda also to promote this material, as you've said. The state.
You always have to know who is sponsoring the artist.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's an agenda there. Like I say again, if I sponsor something, because if I sponsor a talented young artist, because I recognize beauty. Some people, they mock Picasso. And Picasso was saying at the end of his life, the Cubism period was a joke. I was laughing at people. You go look at the first Picasso. That man was a genius. The way he was painting his father with classical painting, it is extraordinarily beautiful. And you understand that after that, he got caught in something that was destroying his soul, and it showed in his painting. It's very sad because we can all be targeted by, I would say, the devil, quote unquote. That's why the title Progress and Evil. We can progress individually, we evolve, we mature, but we can encounter evil too. Deprivation. You know it yourself. Drugs or extreme experience. And I don't say I didn't do it. It's not a question. Question is, how do we face reality when we are not ourselves?
Yeah. There's an agenda to unground and dehumanize. But yeah. Why would they do that? For endless revolution. So it's maybe an evil agenda, endless revolution. Like, why can't people just live? Tax are always go up. The price of food always goes up. There's just no need of it. AI could solve that, couldn't it? Yeah, of course not.
No. And you are always working on transhumanism. Brooke Delorme, when she brought what's her name? Steiner. I
Rudolf
forgot his
Steiner.
first name. Rudolf Steiner. I handed up on a quote 2 days ago when the quote says that the purpose is to destroy the soul, so you cannot connect with the divine. The divine, you can say, harmony in your life. Harmony in you. It doesn't mean that you will not struggle. If you get married, you have children, you know how it is. You raise children, and because they have to become human being, and they are already human being, but they have to become adult, So you struggle, but you still have love, harmony, beauty, kindness, all those things that they are mocked today, because we have to perform, we have to be fluid, we have to to comply, to fit in the mold. We cannot criticize the narrative. If it is a spiritual war and an economic war, our children or grandchildren or the future generation are in danger.
Well, let's talk about science and evolution and the consensus, establishment that you sort of allude to. No one's allowed to question the narratives like transgenderism. Not allowed to question it in Canada anymore. Nope, do not do it. Where are we going here? So, can you say more about it? Basically, what you've written about it, and tell me and our listeners: is evolution, is it bullshit or not?
Well, I go back to the theory of Darwin in Logos Rising, the book of Michael Jones, the subtitle "History of Ultimate Reality." There's a chapter on the book of Yuval Noah Harari, and the title of the book is *Sapiens*. And in this book, Harari is referring to the human brain as a hackable device. And based on the theory of evolution, we're just atoms and particles. In one chapter, Michael Jones is explaining that the theory of evolution, the language arrives and evolves slowly. You need two people to be able to talk. If it evolves slowly, how can you start talking without having somebody to talk to? The chapter is about 60, 70 pages. He's invalidating the argument of Harari. Harari is a teacher of history in the Tel Aviv University in Israel. And he's invalidating it in a way. He's comparing it, going toward the evolution, the theory of evolution. And Michael Jones is bringing this idea that it's a theory that was accepted by the scientific community. Accepted doesn't mean that you agree with it. The difference between science as a consensus and science as a dissensus is fundamental. There's a little book, "What is this thing called science?" by Alan Chalmers. Chalmers was I think he's still alive. I read this book so many times, and he's saying a theory is something that is accepted by the majority of the community, like physicians, for example. But a theory has to be challenged. And I take a small example. You're a world champion of boxer, and you have your title, you have your belt, and you deny challengers to challenge you because you're starting to be older. You're not sure you will win. You want to keep your title, so you become weak. A theory who is not challenged will become weak. The more the theory will be challenged, and the more the theory will win, the more it will be strong. When we think about the theory of evolution, same thing. Everybody jumped on the idea, and when you go deeply in the roots of the theory, you ask yourself, where are the ethnologues who can challenge the theory? They don't challenge it. So you can arrive and say, okay, there's a consensus. Okay, show me all the attack on the theory to make sure that the theory is more strong and stronger and stronger. Ptolemy was overturned by Galileo, and so on and so on. And then you have the theory of general relativity and restricting relativity of Einstein. We're progressing towards something, but it doesn't mean that we own the truth. This is something quite, and I'm challenging a lot of people, scientists. Really, I'm not a scientist. I'm just asking the question, hard question. Let's say I act like a journalist. Sir, what do you think of this? Oh, if I advise people to go read this little book of Chalmers, it's a 200-page, very funny. You can have it in English and French. They were translated, and you learn the all those definition of science, because you don't have one definition, you have many. And this is quite funny. It showed me that I didn't know what was science, and I'm still struggling, because, like I said, I'm a writer. I studied the French literature. I did not study all the history of science. I did not study this.
We don't need so much science. First of all, the science of air conditioning is great. The science of indoor plumbing, maybe antibiotics. In fact, now that's come into question. Too much of that stuff is not good. Some things, yeah, sure, great. But do we need, like Bill Gates right now? I've been checking him out lately, what he's been up to. He's over in India at a huge farming conference. And oh my God, I got a whole rabbit hole into this for later, but he gave a full 1-hour speech, and I started to listen to some of it, and my God, that guy's a maniac. He basically, here's what's going on in India. He's got a huge AI brain mainframe building set up with all kinds of tech people who are basically overriding India's farming structure system, and weaseling his way in there and bringing a lot of AI innovation, yada, 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 to streamline and blah, blah, blah. This is not farming. I still don't understand fully what he's up to, but it's not good. And in fact, he's got the SDG goals up there. This is a sect of the UN doing this, but he's like leading the charge. Oh boy. So my question, I guess, in a rambling roundabout way, is like, why can't we just slow the hell down a little bit? Huh? No. Why not? Because it's an engineered endless revolution. Is this what you're sort of saying too?
Well, this is why I refer to permanent revolution, and I can refer or quote Tim Knight when he was talking about revolution, counter-revolution, and then revolution again. That's why it triggered something in my mind when we were talking about postmodernism, because modernity, based on what we know, the century of enlightenment, progress, evolution, industrial revolution, the discovery of atom, the nuclear bomb, and we arrive at a point, like you said, the biology, nanobiology and nanotechnology, but also we've discovered something, quantum physics. The observer modifies the experiment.
Yep.
So that is something that was not expected in this continuum since the Enlightenment. So the idea of a permanent revolution is a way to make people insecure, develop anxiety, and never feel at rest, to meditate and contemplate the beauty of life. Anna Arendt, she wrote in one of her books, The Human Condition, she's describing exactly that. The fact that we arrive and we meditate. There's a small cartoon, it's very funny. The man is fishing in a river, and you have a vivid big yacht who is arriving, and the other man is saying, "What are you doing there?" "I'm fishing." And then suddenly the little character on the big yacht, he remembers that when he was young, he was fishing. And then he started to do a business to become rich, very rich. And for what? To have the pleasure to go back fishing in the river. Because the beauty of acting, sometimes we just sit and we look. I saw a hole last week, a white hole, a great gray white hole in front of my house. I'm in Quebec, 30 miles from Montreal. They're not common.
Hmm.
At first, I was like, I stayed there for 15 minutes watching it. It was on a telephone pole,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so beautiful. And I took some pictures. They were not good, but I told my wife, I said, that was a moment of harmony. The beauty was there. I caught it. Of course, I could not share it because I did not have my photo camera, but it's not important. It's in my mind. Beauty is everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you brought up the word totem. Sometimes, and I believe this, that the natural world, say an animal unexpectedly does something a little bit off. Not every seagull or pigeon that flies by, I think, is a totem, but sometimes people just know it. They're walking through the woods, maybe, or something's happening, and some encounter. We'll call it an encounter with an animal. Maybe it stares back at you for a long time, and you have like a weird, like a zap moment. And an owl, very rare, almost always a totem, I would think.
Yes.
Same as a coyote. You know, very powerful totems. These things. So when they come out, yeah, I see owls sometimes too, very rarely. But
They're
anyway.
beautiful. It's the first time I saw. I'm 66 years old. It's the first time I saw one in my life in real,
Oh,
and I
really?
was like, "Wow,
Oh,
okay."
yeah.
You see birds, but when you encounter this, there's no age. You
Oh,
you
yeah.
you you feel like you're a child. What my cat, my female cat Musia, when she gave birth to the four kitten in my bedroom closet at 1 o'clock in the morning, my wife and we got up. I was crying.
Hmm.
I was worried that something can happen, but I saw those four babies, and my cat. We decided to adopt her, and I said, this is beautiful. Remind me of the birth of my own daughter.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. Nature is pretty interesting sometimes, huh? Well, we're getting very soft, Andre. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, not today. But it's good because it's good that we're taking our time because we're not through the article yet, but we're deep into the body of it, and the juicy ending, the shining, hopeful ending is upon us, but we're not through the darkness of it yet because you bring up Jared Kushner, who I've been wondering about a long time too. He's a real dark force in the world, I think. Anyway, you bring him up in your article. You're talking about geopolitics a little bit as we, reflect on postmodernism. What did you say about him? And also, there's a bit of a joke. We talked about satirical writing of dark topics. There's a little joke about in there. I could read it, or I'll hand it to you if you want to say anything about it.
Well, Kushner is part of the negotiation team of the United States with Russia. And I'm sorry, Kushner is the son-in-law of Donald Trump, and he goes. The man has no knowledge in diplomacy whatsoever, but he's a real estate. And the Greater Israel, which means that they would wiped out Gaza and built the Middle East Riviera. And in my article, I say, who in their right mind would want to build a mansion, a beautiful villa on a cemetery?
Yeah.
Because now some people they are saying that the approximated number of death in Gaza is 600,000 people, not 60,000. 600,000 people under the rubbles of all those buildings that were bombed by the IDF. What is Kushner? What is he doing in Russia, negotiating with the Russian government over the land of Ukraine? It's because, they can talk about rebuilt Ukraine. Of course. For who? The west part of Ukraine is not touched yet. I don't think it will be. But the east part of Ukraine, which is all the Donbass, Kharkov, Zaporozhye, Kherson, and maybe Odessa. I'm sorry to say it for people who don't believe that it can happen. If they destroy, they will want to reconstruct. And what is behind that? Ethnic cleansing. You remove the people, We saw this with the tendency is everywhere. We saw this in Hawaii. We saw this in many places where you have a big event, natural catastrophe, and suddenly you arrive, you see a real estate agent, they arrive very fast and they offer you $1 million, $2 million for the land. They started that in 2008 with the financial crisis. Banking were repossessing houses, kicking out people who had a variable mortgage rate. They lost their house, and instead of paying the municipal tax, they were destroying the house because they needed the land, and the municipal tax on land was cheaper. So they were able to erase millions of houses, kicking people out of their home, foreclosure and everything. You have this long-term tendency of ethnic cleansing. This is why sometimes when I refer to cannibalism, I refer to ancient ritual. This is not new. It's something that's always there. I was saying violence is always there. We just delegate the violence to the state or the government so we can be in a peaceful society. But the violence never disappears.
Yeah. They show on the news places getting bombed. I will read a few sentences. So you write, revolutionaries, those who reject harmony, order, and ethics, constantly seek to establish corrosive ideologies, gender ideology, anti-Semitism, transhumanism, artificial intelligence, etc., without ever presenting any rational basis. And when these fantasies arouse a certain skepticism or even legitimate mistrust among the population, they resort to verbal violence and activism based on sectarian guerrilla warfare to suppress any possibility of discourse. Hello. Welcome to the education system in Canada.
David, you yourself, you can testify how you were pressured and you were, I would say, maybe not marginalized, but how you were pressured and you were censored. We can see all the activists now with the ICE action in the United States. How aggressive! There was a nurse who said that she would poison the people who would go to a hospital if they are considered part of the ICE police in the United States. And after that, she was fired. She was fired, and those people are not very intelligent. She posted that on social media.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, it's a death threat. This is incredible.
Well, here in Canada, we have MAID, and where you live in Quebec, they have the highest rates of MAID, medical assistance in dying, in maybe the world. And we're not going to open that can of worms, but it relates because you brought up nurses and stuff, and I'll tell you something. The loose talk around this medicine, this injection in the hospital industry these days is just like, my goodness, when will that person just go take MAID? They're so irritating, and I have a heavy workload. So when things like that come up in the workplace, this discussion that is not harshly criticized or reprimanded at all, it takes a concerning. There's a concerning cultural element here in Canada, and you're writing about this. Like, here's the thing, and sorry for my rambling questions, but this is a lot to digest. Wokeism is the new dogma. This is something that we hashed out on the podcast on postmodernity, the roundtable. This came out for me, and it stuck with me. Wokeism is the new dogma. So the left, what are they going to fight against next? What's the next grand narrative that they will tear down? Their own wokeism? That's an awkward question, but what do you have to say about all this shit that I've just said?
No, the introduction is necessary. Woke, to be awake. You remember in 1990 we had the era just before the before the year 2000, everybody was afraid that we change millennium, something will happen. Maybe a asteroid will hit the planet. It will be a big, the flood, the great flood, and blah blah blah. We had New Age. We did. You remember we did a series on Buddhism, and you were explaining how Buddhism arrived in the West. New Age, all those new and soft way of being and everything. Suddenly, after that, that you drank too much, you hung up, you get up in the morning, you have a hangover, you go get back to reality. Wokeism, to be awake, it's the same thing. It's so awkward to see the word woke.
I know.
To be awake. To be awake to what? You mentioned last week in the episode, the quote that when you use this quote to start the episode, it's a big mood.
Yeah.
And I have the feeling that we are arriving at this, at the end of it, with the shooting this week in BC. Yeah. It is tragic, because this young man who was on hormone blocker and on very hard drugs many years, he paid the price. Okay, he killed people. I agree with this. It is murder. But when you look at the motivation and his path, for me, it's evil. For me, it is evil, because there's no such thing as creating life there.
Yeah, and the education system and our own government have a role to play in questioning their role in all of these things that are happening. And the transgender people who go through the surgeries and do commit suicide, yeah, sure, they do that. They become lifelong surgical patients, pharmaceutical patients for life. And their great pharmaceutical business that they're running these days on all of us, treating us like guinea pigs. Sorry, what was my question? It doesn't matter. We're just talking. Gee whiz, that's frustrating.
But when you refer to woke, if you go back to the title, postmodernism, what comes next? Yeah. All ideologies, they collapse under the weight of reality. All of them. If it is not an ideology, something that is created and accepted by the definition of an ideology is something that is created, and after that, something that does not tolerate contradiction. That's the real definition of an ideology. Compared to an idea, let's say you have a great idea and you promote it. People will try to destroy it or try to see that it doesn't work. And if it works, everybody will benefit from it. An ideology doesn't work the same way. And wokeism is an ideology that is created to push people toward total control. You were talking about the data center, AI in India. Those ideologies, they always attack the weakest part of the society. I thought it was United States. I was wrong. It is Canada. We are a weak state because our weak elite. Because of our weak elite. There's a quote from Solzhenitsyn about Russia and about the mediocrity of all the elite in Russia during the perestroika, 1990-2000, just before Putin arrived. And in the book 200 Years Together, he said, but of course, what we have is parasite in power, because we killed all Russian people who were intelligent. We practically eliminated them. And this is very important, because after that, you're stuck with those people, and they believe in themselves. They believe that they are above people. They believe that they can, they are right. They believe they have God. Even Bill Gates, he believes that he's a half a God.
Yeah, and that's going to connect to one of your final, sort of the kicker at the end, the good news part, which we're all looking forward to at this point. But let me tell you something. I've been reading about the Berlin Wall, and there was this thing that happened called brain drain when they were just building the wall. All the people who think that this is bad fled to the west side.
Yes, exactly.
So it compounded the issue, because people who couldn't escape, couldn't get a plane ticket, whatever, or get out of there when it was still barbed wire, when you could still jump over the damn thing. People clued in quick what was going on. Some people. So anyway, I just think about that sometimes too. Like a lot of people left Canada during the COVID era. The people who we could use, who can think this shit
Well,
through.
I had two options. First of all, I could not leave because
Yeah.
of the mandate. We were stuck here. My wife was 3 years without seeing her family in Russia. She could not leave,
Yeah.
and I had two options. The first option is I sell everything and I go live in Russia with my wife. Family is there. I'm fluent enough to finish my life in Russia. I'm 66 years old. The other option was to stay here and fight, because I told myself, if I go, will I be perceived as a coward, a traitor, somebody who goes away? And you need to be able to face reality. I have a 200-year-old house. I cannot sell it. I cannot sell it, and I will not just give it away like this. So I decided. I told myself, maybe God tells me that I have to stay here and continue what I'm doing. And I was very happy because I met you. I met a lot of people through those exchange. And honestly, today I'm happy because I'm starting to meet people, exchange ideas. This is something that was taken from us in 2020 when we were locked down and under curfew, and that was horrible. And the most horrible part is teenagers, how they
Yep.
were jailed.
Yep. All the
I don't
15
think they
all the
would have.
15-year-olds, yeah. So all the 15-year-olds are now 20. So it's their duty now to to slow down the revolution or have a counter revolution of spiritual truth coming out. And this is a segue back into the article a little bit, because you're quoting Solzhenitsyn near the end about his meditations on Stalin, how Stalin maybe was
Mm.
thinking of himself as a leader of the whole world maybe someday, and how Napoleon, he called himself emperor. Sure, why can't I? These kind of concepts. But then he has a realization, Stalin. So over to you. Let's draw out the positive view of the future for poor old Canada here.
Well, this novel of Solzhenitsyn, it is the first cycle, and it is some scientist, mathematician, physician. They are in the gulag. They are in they're working for the secret services, and they are like practically in jail. But they're very intelligent. And there's one man, Kenty. He's a traitor to the Soviet Union. He's working. You could say he's working for the secret services of the United States or the MI5 at the time, and he get caught. And of course, it's during the era of Stalin time, and Solzhenitsyn was in the Gulag. So I think he wrote this novel at this time, and he makes Stalin speak. Stalin, the great, the father of the people, la 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 la. And of course, when you're an atheist, you say, "Oh, maybe they will invent a cure. I will be immortal." But no, they will not have the time. And then the second part, in what I quote, is, "Oh, I will be the great emperor of the world." And but what after? What will come after? And then he makes Stalin doubt of himself, because even an atheist will ask himself, "But what if there is a God?" And when you arrive at this level, and I think Solzhenitsyn was making fun a little bit of this idea of a totalitarian structure, which is you can control the world, but shit, the planet Earth is quite small if you compare to the solar system. And I refer to this because I want to show that megalomaniac, they will perish. Gates, all those people. I think about Al Gore with the climate change. They all have their agenda. Al Gore, Klaus Schwab's, Harari with piracy or hacking the human brain. And I would even say Elon Musk with colonizing Mars and everything. They can dream if they want. They can dream if they want. So Solzhenitsyn, I think he was making fun of the idea of I will be so great, I will be the master.
And then he realizes that there's a bigger question that he could never answer. That maybe there's someone greater up there.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
That's exactly what I think that Solzhenitsyn was referring to in the first cycle. It's a very great novel.
Let me read the quote from Solzhenitsyn himself. So here is Solzhenitsyn speaking as Stalin, I guess. So, quote,
Exactly.
a strong fellow indeed, that Bonaparte. He wasn't afraid of those Jacobin lapdogs. He proclaimed himself emperor, and that was that. There's nothing harmful about the name emperor, imperator, man who commands, leader. It doesn't clash at all with global communism. It sounds pleasant. Emperor of the planet, emperor of the earth. He marched on to the sound of the fanfare. Perhaps then they would have found the means, the medicine, that would make him personally immortal. No, there wouldn't be enough time for that. Anyway, so then he starts to think. So yes, he could die, he says, sublime among all the greats, unrivaled, unequaled in the history of the earth. He stopped suddenly. So Stalin had what? He just had a heart attack one day, right?
Well, yes, I think so.
That's another
rabbit hole.
That's another episode, sure. So it says, but what about up there? He had no rivals. That much was certain. But up there, if he looked up, he resumed his slow walk. This question, the only one he hadn't yet resolved, sometimes gnawed at him insidiously. Yeah, okay. That's the good news. That whatever this weird system that's emerging by force, I call it enforced wokeism. It's taking on a new bent. Because now this violence that's happening on some of their behalf, you cannot discuss it much also because you can't discuss it in general. Transgenderism. You want to talk transgender assassin or whatever? This is a very taboo, back to taboo again. Like I'm even worried to talk about certain things. You know, in Nova Scotia, there was the largest mass shooting in Canadian history happened here in 2020. Where
Yes,
a man,
I remember.
he dressed as a police officer, had an actual police car that he built in his garage with all the right stickers and everything. And wow, that's another rabbit hole. But he wasn't transgender, so I mean, these things happen. How are we going to wrap up this conversation?
Well, you talk about this mass shooting in 2020. Like I said, violence is everywhere. It never disappears, even in ourselves. The aggressivity that we have. I was for many years. I was mixing aggressivity with strength. Man, compared to women, a man is aggressive. This is in our nature. First of all, we're more strong. Unless you are an Olympic champion, women, okay, I understand they train. But if you don't train, you put a man and a woman. Usually, the man will always be more strong, and the woman will be more emotional. This is human characteristic. But violence is always there, and I was mixing aggressivity with strength. Do not mix both. Violence, aggressivity, strengths are three different characteristics. You can be violent if somebody attacks you. You can use strength, but the word aggressivity means aggression. And when you start to pay attention to words, you understand that you have to control some of them. Violence, delegate violence. Aggressivity, control your own aggressivity and transform it into strength. This is maybe the thing that I would say about progress, how we can evolve through this. And if you refer to what the last quote of my article, I took the small clip of W.D. James because we were talking about postmodernism, and I really liked what W.D. James said last week about what will happen. Maybe the fact that we will be able to pray again. And I took this from the quote, the clip that you extract from the last week's episode.
Mm-hmm. I could play the clip. I could play it.
Yes.
I don't have it prepared, but there's the actual quote that he said there, and I've been thinking about that too. That the postmodern world where everything is allowed again, or whatever you want to look at it, maybe these woke people will even entertain possibilities that maybe true spirituality is a good thing, and others can have it. And sometimes that means different worldviews, for God's sake, different moral ethics.
I have the feeling that they will hit the wall of reality, and this after
Hopefully,
that
hopefully
we
this
all will
event. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very, very nice clip.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. But to circle back on the evolution thing while I prepare the clip, we were talking about evolution and creationism. And I was thinking, well, what if there was a third? Like, there's people who have a third concept, but like this divine sound. Like this, the people say, that stuff. The vibration and of the universe. You can see it all around us in many different ways, creating shapes. Somewhere here, maybe there's something going on where there is evolution, yes, of species and reality, but through a divine sound or song. I don't know. I think this is the third option besides going fully into evolution of materialism and fully into creationism, which is a little bit of a logical problem. Somewhere in the middle, maybe. Any thoughts on this? And I have the clip almost prepared, but what do you think?
The sound is. We look at the Fibonacci series, or we look at the way water moves when it is subject to sounds.
Yes, sorry, I'm ready.
This is part of mystery of life. Many people, they study this. Waves and particle. They were talking about waves and particle in physics, and when they discovered that the light was at the same time a wave and a particle.
Yeah,
that's incredible. That was a very great discovery.
Yeah.
So there is evolution in a sense of discovering the beauty of the universe. I would say the beauty is there. We just don't see it.
And this relates also to what you were saying about trying to disconnect people spiritually.
Yes.
They don't want us to feel harmony. Use the word harmony. And that's why that started to come to my mind. Like, I feel harmony sometimes, although my dog is wanting to go out. She's not being very harmonious right now. She's whining to go outside. But I'm going to play this clip of W.D. James from our roundtable. I invite everybody to go back to this on my Rumble channel, back to the full panel discussion on post-modernity in our modern era.
Hope here, right? Because, I think we are incarnational beings, and maybe in a way that even in so-called atheists like Harvey, though I don't think he is, but could tune into, right? Because we are this place where at least different modes of experience come together, right? If you don't want to commit to that, metaphysically, that there's that's something other than the material actually exists. Certainly, our experiences, we do have spiritual experiences, however you want to frame that exactly. And yeah, so if there is a postmodern, I think one of the things that we might get permission again to entertain is spirituality.
Okay. Remove the clip. Okay, buddy. Not much more to say there, is it? That's a good ender. What do you think?
Well, yes, and the only thing that I would, make a nuance is the permission. Do we have to ask permission?
Yeah, I know. Permission from the state, of course, or whatever. Who knows? My goodness. Nihilism. It's a bad look for our country. Truly. Grow up, Canada. Grow the F up. Yeah, that's my advice. We got to laugh our way out of it, too. That's why I love your satire. You're a funny guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to talk about all this cannibalism and Maria Abramovic and all these disgusting people that are out there, without being able to take a light touch.
Well, satire is supposed to help people digest what is not nice. Yesterday we had an episode of Service at the Gate, and we were talking about the mass shooting in BC, and I was concerned because we talked about it this week, you and me, and I said to Tim in Payment before the show, I said I was not comfortable at all because you cannot use satire or humor in a situation like this. You have to be more modest and humble. So that's
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm also treading cautiously, but I'm not afraid to broach the topic, definitely. And the question of the pharmaceuticals, which are still, I doubt it'll ever be questioned, and I mean, hopefully it will be. And also, if academia could take a good look in the mirror and say, are these textbooks coming from the United Nations, or what's like? Is this really, how we think about these things in the Western world? Truly, that biology is irrelevant. I mean, come on. I'm sorry. This is a cult. Fact. Yeah. So anyway, we're back into the dark notes again, Andre. We got to get out of the good. It's very sunny today. I got to take this dog for a walk.
Yes,
out in nature.
That's what will bring you
Yeah.
toward this meditation
Yes.
time. Walking with your dog.
Yeah.
I have a cup. I have a cup for coffee, and it is written more cats, more naps. And I when my kittens they decide to fall asleep, I compare this to they're like a drone. You plug them, they're charged, and then they run away for 2 hours, and then suddenly when the batteries are there, they just fall and they sleep. And then I go to sleep with them.
Yeah, well, this is it, isn't it? The beauty of the natural world. Plants, animals,
Yeah,
humans. Gotta keep it real.
exactly.
Keep it real, everybody. That's the way out. Until next time, my friend, thanks a lot for writing that great article. I enjoyed reading it. Gave me a lot to think about. And I've had a very unhopeful outlook of late on the podcast and in general. But it's starting to shift. Spring is upon us. The season of war.
Yes. First of all, thank you for inviting me for this discussion. It's always pleasant because we can go deep in concept and come back.
Come up for air. Yeah.
From air for hair.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time, my friend.